I began to dream awake, and you became like water falling from sky mouth to my mouth and into my center, accusing me of duplicity, yet awarding me with the sigil upon my outer center that threaded to my inner center and reveals the world that would expel all falseness. From sky mouth, an onslaught of twinkling teeth grin at me in my humor. There is a row of stone that outlines a path that leads me farther from home than I've ever been, away from water, further into teeth and gum and wondrous tongue. On the berm, her lipstick clouds mimic a tale I once told to an audience of people who did not know my last name but loved me. I am an outline of the man I once was, but far from a shell. I am the firefly dance superstar, delightful dancing superstar, shooting stories from my center, eating every piece of bread in my path. Thanks.
This came out of a trip to the Port Authority bus station, and just all the weirdnesses and particularities, and also an interesting event, Port Authority. This is called Bus Stop. Thousands walk the halls of this place, and barely one had anything to do with another. It was a disjointed oneness. It was a disjointed oneness which moved in every direction and made a collective sound. Where the ceilings were low, there was a syncopation, with notes bouncing off everything. Ears were not knowing what they were hearing, creating a fuzzy mind in many who crowded through. But when ceilings got higher, the echoes softened. Thousands of ears felt everything change. You could almost see the heads, all of them, tilting, turning slightly. If you moved towards the central staircase where space abounded, the sounds were at ease, rebounding shimmerously off the mixed, soft, hard surfaces all around. Within those whirls of sound, there were strings of concentrated tones, and the arcs of those tones had a grace, each note spinning along their path without bumping into any of the others. Eyes were still bowing to the ears in that space, and there was a sparkling of sound for what could create these gentle crescendos and dewdrop splashes that none had yet traced. Then the humpbacked man came into view. Head down so far there was no face, as he poured himself into an unlikely piano, his gnarled body generating lilting notes that moved about in the grand chaos of this now glorious space. It was like an air brake upon the feverish walking of the denizens of the central stair, their movements now slowed as if beauty itself placed a drag upon their movements through the air. And yes, an effervescence like a fountain swirled out of that piano, and the man curled upon it, drawing those keys into his very pores and complete in his dedication as his invisible sonic eruption spread steadily to every nook and cranny, so that even the dust fibers and the little ants knew that this man without no face could leave his trace upon this place. And in a crooked, tingling reverie did he spew a kaleidoscope of sound.
This next one is called In My Dream. In my dream, I am on a lake, near a lake, in a house on a lake, and a boy I was friends with as a child is there. I had this picture, this fantasy in my head of how wonderful he would be, how he would live up to all of my dreams. This fantasy I had created in my head was only that. Because when I met him, he was just like any other man, unsure of himself, yet overly confident. He was not the man I had dreamt of, though he was. He was really just any other man. In my dream, I was in New Paltz. I was driving, I was walking, I was running, trying to find someone who'd understand, someone who would look at my picture and see what I saw. I walked up frantically to someone at a bar and said, "Please help me. I don't know anyone who understands, and I need to see a doctor." He said, "What's the problem?" And I said, "Look." I showed him the picture. It was me, sitting there at the bar. He must have thought I was crazy, but then I zoomed out on the image. I zoomed out and kept zooming until I zoomed out to an exact replica of the first image. It didn't make any sense. He must have thought I was crazy, so he said, maybe you do need to see a doctor. And me, being crazed and not understanding which way was uptown and which way was down, said, yes, I know, that's what I've been saying. He looked around and I looked around, and then I left. In my dream, I saw my mother with sad, sad eyes. I could not say anything because I don't think she could see me. It was like she was looking straight at me and seeing straight through.